Hello and welcome to the Patience to Prosperity podcast, where we learn how to act in opposition of our limiting beliefs in order to reach our fullest potential. Today I'm here with an exciting guest that you may have already met on a different podcast episode. And if you haven't, I suggest that you go back to that episode either before or after you listen to this podcast. I'm joined here with Miss Wanda.
Hello.
And our last episode that we did was talking all about things like body image issues, relationship with food and exercise. And Wanda's a fitness coach. She is the creator of Be Reborn Fitness, and all of her stuff will be linked in the description below. So check that out after you listen to this episode. But today we're going to be talking all about building better self-image. So things that we're going to cover under that scope is building and breaking habits, what the word surrendering really means to both of us, and things like instant gratification, comparison, everything that falls under that umbrella. So if you want to just give yourself a little intro.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here again on another episode.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to dive in today to more of like the mindset switches that I've made and I've helped lots of clients make in order to be successful and, like you said, reach their fullest potential.
Yeah.
I think with fitness, a lot of people, when they get into it, they think it's just like lifting weights and eating healthy. And what I've found over the last 3 years really working in the field and working directly with clients is that clients only achieve what they're capable or what they believe they're capable of.
Yeah.
And if they don't believe that they're capable of losing the weight or having the healthier relationship with food, they typically do not.
Right.
Right. So I'm really excited to dive into self-belief today.
Yeah.
And talk about what that means too, because I think a lot of the times we just say like, believe in yourself, and like, we don't actually know what that entails.
100%.
Right? So.
And yeah, something I just want to add before we get into it is that Wanda's approach to fitness and with training and helping her clients out is not your typical approach that you see all over social media, where we're just focused on what the scale looks like. We're just focused on what we're eating and tracking our macros. She really helps you dive into the mindset stuff. Like, that's a big scope of her practice.
Yeah.
And I think it's just important to note that, because working with her, like, she's like basically a therapist when it comes to coaching. Like, she really knows her stuff. So I'm so excited to talk to you about this today.
I will say, when I started, it definitely was just lift the weights, eat
the
food, hit your protein goal.
Right.
All that.
Yeah.
And then I started recognizing really in the first year, like, who was able to be consistent with their goals and like the things that they need to do in order to reach their goals, and who wasn't.
Yeah.
Right? There was like a very, it was very apparent to me, like, who was going to come into the program and crush it and who was going to come into the program and struggle.
Yeah.
And I myself was like, didn't really know, I would look at these clients and I'd be like, oh, Jay's doing really great. And she has like a really good mindset about things. Right? Like, she'd come to her check-in, she'd come to those points where we would have discussions, and she kind of already have solutions and just kind of like wanted my insight on whether that was like the right approach.
Yeah.
But then there was other clients that were like, oh, I just need you to tell me what to do.
Right.
And those were the clients that were like, it was a lot harder, because when you tell someone what to do, if it's not really their idea or it's not something that they actually believe they can be consistent with, it doesn't matter what you tell them.
Exactly.
You can tell them something as simple as go on a walk for 20 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And that is the most simple of simple things you can do to better your health. And even that is like pulling teeth in.
Right.
Like,
yeah. So how much do you think you can really rely on someone else to make a change? Like, you know how some people can really only stay consistent in the gym when they have a gym partner. How much do you think it has to be fully your own knowing and capability, and how much do you think like you can actually rely on other people? Because I think like there is a certain extent where you get to the point where like you have to be strong enough within yourself and want it badly enough to be able to keep up the habit. But I think at the same time, asking for help is also really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think relying on the structure
of
somebody else, or the structure that someone's going to provide you with is a great way to, like, place to start. I know when I started my fitness journey, like, some of the only reasons I got to the gym was because I had someone there waiting for me, right?
Right.
And I wanted it, but, like, I wasn't at a point where I wanted it so badly that I would do it alone. Right. And then it eventually turned into me being so comfortable in the gym. And I think a lot of that, too, with, like, that scenario specifically is just, like, being uncomfortable being there alone. Like, it's just a new environment.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to, like, achieving the goals that you've set out to have, having that support is great. Having that structure, like, having help to lead you down a path that you haven't been down yet is going to be super important.
Right.
But it's not like when we're building a relationship with our clients inside Be Reborn, it's not like you need to rely on me in order to get results. It's more of like, I'm here to help you figure out the best way that's going to work for you. Right? I
love that, yeah.
So there's I think in the beginning when I was coaching, I created a lot of codependency where people felt like they didn't know how to track something. They like needed me to tell them how to track something. Right. Now it's when someone, doesn't know how to track something, say they go out to eat and they're like, I don't know exactly how to break this down and guesstimate this. I say, okay, how would you have done that? And I get their answer first, and then I'll just edit it. Right?
Oh, I love that.
So it's like, I'm not going to spoon feed you everything because that's not going to do anything for you long term. Right. Yeah. So having the support where you need the help is fantastic, but also, like, and this comes back to self-belief, believing in yourself enough that you could at least try to find the right answer, to do the right thing, and then kind of go back later and get the support that you need. Yeah. But, there's no, like, spoon feeding. Or,
and I feel like especially in the beginning, you're constantly going to be, like, adding and taking away from things that you thought worked for you, but maybe don't necessarily. And, like, that's something we'll talk about today is kind of just, like, learning things, but also unlearning things that you have been taught the whole time, because that can get in the way of your progress.
Absolutely.
For sure. So I guess, like, the first question I have for you is, what ways do you work to build a better self-image?
So I think when it comes down to self-image, what it really breaks down to is your ability to do something. Your appearance, so like body image, right? That defines self-image, and then your personality. Those are like the three core things that like self-image breaks down to be. So the question really is, how do we build up our abilities, right?
Ooh, love.
How do we build up our personality into something that we're proud of? Right? Those core values, those core beliefs operating out of those. Yeah. And how do you build up your appearance? Right. How do you build, and we won't go into that today because we did tons on body image before.
Yeah, if you want anything on body image, go to our first episode.
But really what I want to hone in on is your ability to do something. And if the question is, how do you build a better self-image, the question really becomes, how do you build more ability to do thing that you want to do. Yeah. And as simple as it is, it really just comes down to doing it. Yeah. Right? If you are, you want to be a gym girly, or you want to get that promotion at work, or you want to be a better mom, whatever it is, right? The only way you get better at those things is by doing them. Right. Right? Doing it scared, doing it tired, doing it when you're not feeling your best, doing it when you don't feel like you want to do it. Yeah. Right? And just going through and doing it.
Yeah, because then you're literally showing yourself that you're capable of doing things that you told yourself you weren't capable of doing. Yeah. Especially, like you said, when you're scared, when you're tired. Like, those are the times that you do it the most, because that's when you really create this confidence within you, like, oh shit, I can do that. Like, and then you're going to do it again. Then it's easier to show up when you are in a good mood and you're having a good day, because you just did that when you're having a shitty day, Absolutely. So I think that's really important.
I wish I could give another like answer or like a hack to like how to do things you don't want to do, but like, it's like you just do it when you don't want to do it.
And I think what you hit on a little bit too is like, your personality, and like you said a little bit about like your appearance too. Obviously that plays into it because you know, gain a sense of confidence from your appearance as well. We're not going to just like brush that under the rug. But I think a big part of it, of being capable of doing something, is actually knowing yourself. Yeah. Because if you know your work ethic and you know the way that you usually dealt with something like this in the past, that's going to make it a lot easier to build habits going onward with that, because now you know that already you're not someone that was capable in the past of showing up in the gym every single day. So why would you set a goal for yourself to go 7 days a week right off the bat, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's where self-belief really comes into.
Yeah.
It's like, what you believe you're capable of doing sets the limits of what you're capable of achieving. Right? So, like, that is setting the boundary of what you can accomplish as an individual. Right? So, being able to expand your self-image is being able to expand what's really the area of what's possible for you.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really important. And when we go into building a better self-image too, it's really just building out your belief systems.
Yeah.
Right? So I think we talked about this a little bit last time, but like identifying where your beliefs really are and being able to restructure them in a way that better serves you.
Yes. Like something that I was thinking of when you said that is actually trying to get to the root of where these beliefs even came from in the first place. Because sometimes when you do some inner work and you try to figure out, you know, why do I think that I look this way? Why do I think that I'm not capable of showing up in the gym every single day? Sometimes those beliefs didn't come from yourself. Maybe you played sports in high school and your coach told you that you were lazy. Maybe someone in your past said something about your body and that stuck with you for a long time now, and now you see yourself as something that you're not. You know, like those beliefs are conditioned in our brains from a long time ago sometimes.
A lot of our past experiences.
And we use that to fall back on because we think that that's the truth. And since we've conditioned our brains for so long to think that that's true, now that's where our brain goes because we think that that's what keeps us safe. And our brain's just always trying to keep us safe. So it's falling back on what's most familiar and what's most comfortable to us. But just because it's familiar to us doesn't mean that it's serving us anymore, you know?
Absolutely. Like a lot of our belief systems just come from our past experiences and also experiences of others around us.
Yeah.
As humans, we also learn from everybody else. So it could be that you grew up with a mom who was always doing a fat diet.
Yeah.
Right? And so you might have this belief system that, like, dieting doesn't work, having a body that you feel confident in is not possible for me because it wasn't possible for my mom, right? And when we start to have these belief systems and beliefs that come from our past experiences, what's funny about us is, as humans, is we don't really question them. Instead, we just start to act in ways that confirm it.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Whether it's conscious or not.
Right.
A really big example is actually from a book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. I have it over on my desk right now. Yeah. He was a plastic surgeon who basically would give people nose jobs, give people, you know,
whatever they wanted
to better their self-image or to feel more beautiful. And what he started to see is that some patients would come in and they'd see the changes and they'd love their new nose and they'd be like, you just changed my life. Yeah. And they'd go get the promotion and they'd go have the kids and they'd go find the love of their life. And then there was the other half of his patients that would come and be like, you didn't change anything.
Wow.
Like, I need you to fix this because, like, they're still seeing themselves pre-surgery, pre-nose job, pre-facelift, and they weren't able to see themselves as that new constructed version that they just went under surgery for. Yeah. And it really made him think, why the hell are some of my patients so satisfied and so happy, and why are other patients, like, not even seeing what I did for them? Because I can see it, the nurses can see it, their friends can see it, but they can't see it for themselves. And that's when he started to really understand, like, okay, this isn't just, like, a physical thing. This is how you're truly viewing yourself. Yeah. And
That's fascinating.
One example, like, from the book was that there was a man that always believed that he was ugly, and that was just a part of who he was.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't like his nose, he didn't like his ears. He thought truly that he was ugly, and he assumed that everyone around him thought he was ugly. And he was seeing every single life experience that he had through the lens of, like, I'm ugly, I don't fit in, I'm undesirable, right? And that turned into kind of just like a self-fulfilling prophecy where, like, he had that belief about himself. He believed that everybody thought, like, was judging him because he was ugly. Yeah. And he constantly expected rejection because of it. Right? He constantly expected to be rejected, to be outcasted, to not fit in because he had a core belief that was, you know, so negative about himself. And what that did is it caused him to be really on edge around people and probably really unpleasant to be around. Because I don't know if you've ever been around a person that just kind of has this, like, negative energy around life. Right? Like, that's kind of what he was putting off. Like, right. And it wasn't that he was being rejected because he was ugly. It was, he was being rejected because he was so unpleasant to be around. He was always on edge. He was always anxious. Yeah. He could never just sit down and breathe and relax and, like, feel comfortable. Yeah. And everybody else around him was picking up on that. Right. But he believes it's because he was ugly. Everybody else is saying it, and they're like, no, you're just, like, really negative to be around, and we don't want to be around you. Yeah. And he just kept fulfilling that for himself. Right. Like, no, it's because I'm ugly, and couldn't see it for what it really was. Yeah. So when we have these experiences and we really don't question that belief, like, he never sat there and questioned, am I actually ugly? Right. Or, like, it continued to make him act in ways that confirmed that for himself. Yeah, 100%. And that, like, kind of, it's like a way of self-sabotaging. Absolutely. Like, one of two things that I thought of when you were saying that is that we don't necessarily act in ways of which we believe that we, like, need something. We act in ways of which we believe what we deserve. So, like, if you think that you don't deserve someone who you find attractive because you think you're ugly, that's where that confirmation comes in. It's not, that self-belief is not always true because our self-belief is not always strong. Sometimes you believe that you're something that you're really not. So you fall back on more of what you think that you deserve, you know? And then the second thing I thought of was a quote by Jay Shetty. I don't know if you know him. He has a podcast called On Purpose. One of my favorite podcasters. Yeah. And he says this thing. It's kind of hard to follow at first. It makes you think. He says, you aren't who you think you are. You're who you think someone else thinks you are. So when I think that you think I'm ugly, to me, I think I'm ugly. Yeah. But if I just say I'm ugly, like, no one else is giving me that confirmation. That's just coming straight from me. So he says, you are who you think I am. And it's like, at first you're like, what the hell is he saying? But then when you really break it down, it's like, that makes so much sense. Like, we get confirmation from other people's opinions that they never even said to us in the first place. That was just made up in our head, which means that we're just thinking about that ourselves. Yeah. Like, even if someone outwardly says to you that they think that you're ugly, if that thought actually affects you, if that thought is able to negatively impact you, then I'm here to tell you that that belief is your own. You believe that yourself. Because if you were so sure of yourself and you were so loving towards yourself, you already know who you are. No one else's opinion of you is going to be able to impact you negatively. Absolutely. You know, that's what you fall back on. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So I needed to add that because I always think about that. I experienced that recently. I just switched gyms. Yeah. And I literally posted on my Instagram story. It was like, cue newfound gym anxiety. Yeah. Because I had been at my last gym for a couple of years now. Yeah. And I wasn't anxious. Wow, yeah. I thought that I was going to go in there. This gym is huge. I joined a Lifetime. So, you know, those gyms, I think, are massive everywhere. Right. You don't know where any of the machines are. You don't know any of the people that are working out there. You don't know, like, where to do certain things or how to get certain things, like bands and things that you might need for your workouts. And typically that would send me into like a spiral of like, oh my god, everyone's looking at me.
Right.
I look like an idiot not knowing how to use this machine. Right. And that wasn't the case at all. And I like left that gym feeling like, damn, like this is the first time I've experienced where I've been so sure of myself that I didn't get uncomfortable in a new environment.
Wow.
Because I don't care if someone's looking at me and is like, first of all, no one's looking at you and being like, oh my god, they look so stupid. She doesn't know how to use the machine. No one's doing that.
And if they are, it's only because they're insecure.
Like, I just got here.
Yeah.
Right? Like, who are you to judge me?
Right.
I just got here.
Yeah.
I'm new here.
Yeah.
Right? So when we were talking, we just did a whole presentation on self-belief with my clients last week and building a better self-image and all these really just going along everything that we're talking about now. And I think kind of going off of like you skewing your perception of yourself based on the perception of others, right? Or how situations play out, right? Something that we talked about a lot was really, and he talks about a lot in that book as well, is like we really have to revert to logical thinking in order to build like better self-belief.
Yeah.
And I think that can be hard, especially in the moment. And my assistant coach on the call too she was like, listen guys, like this isn't something that you're going to be able to do immediately, right? Like just separate emotion from fact.
Yeah.
But when you do find yourself in kind of like a spiral, maybe the example is like you missed 3 of your workouts this week. You didn't get to the gym all the times that you wanted to get there.
Right.
Right. A lot of the times you just feel like frustrated or overwhelmed or you're angry with yourself. And not hitting a couple of your workouts that week turns into, I'm a failure. I knew I couldn't do this. I'm never going to reach my goals. And that's when you really have to start separating these thought patterns and ask yourself, like, is this a fact? Or is this just a feeling?
Yes.
Right. And that's the only way to kind of take yourself out of that spiral.
Yeah.
But also to reconfirm that, like, you're not a failure because you missed the gym 2 times this week.
Yeah.
Right? You're not a failure because you took the day off to go spend time with your family.
Yeah.
Right? Those are just feelings that are coming up that are, again, trying to confirm what you already believe about yourself.
Yeah.
And those are the thoughts you kind of have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Because a person that believes they're a winner is not going to just miss a workout or 2 and sit there and beat themselves up. Yeah. Like, I'm failing. I can't do this.
Yeah. We think that our thoughts are always true. Like, just because our brain is telling us that we can't do something or we can do something, that means that it's true. Absolutely. But that's not always the case. Like, that might just be a learned belief from years ago that you never looked at in a deeper way. So you never even understood that it wasn't yours from the start, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like going on with that, I was kind of thinking a little bit about that instant gratification. Because I think that has a lot to do with self-belief, especially in the sense that you were talking about, you know, missing your workout. Yeah, literally.
It's literally everywhere now.
Yeah. So in terms of instant gratification, especially in the beginning when you're trying to stick with a certain habit that you're trying to build, it's really easy to just fall back on your old habits. Yeah. And it's also really hard to see if you're making any progress.
Yeah.
Because obviously if you hit one workout in the gym the next day, you're not going to look completely different. No. You might not even feel that much different in the beginning. You might just feel really sore and tired because you're not used to it, you know? So what ways do you monitor your progress without it being so obsessive in the beginning, you know, without you know, really being like, oh my God, like I haven't reached that yet. I haven't done this yet, but still being able to see the progress that you're making.
Yeah. That's the hardest thing about a fitness journey is that it is something you kind of have to follow with blind faith. Yeah. Right? It is something that like no results are guaranteed by a certain point. Because life happens, there's hiccups throughout it. Right? Things come up, you get sick, other people get sick. Things happen. But when it comes to like instant gratification, this is just not that. It is delayed. It's going to be delayed. It's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
If it does happen overnight, you're probably not going to sustain it, right? Like, that's like the example of like when you cut out all carbs and like a week later you're like 10 pounds lighter. It's just water.
It's just water.
It's just water.
Yeah.
And then, you go back into it. But going back to like your question, which was...
Yeah, so basically it's like how do you monitor your progress when you can't see it yet?
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, so that's where I really like data collection. Right? Mm-hmm. That's where I really like data collection. I think a lot of people get intimidated by numbers because they put an emotional investment on it, which is the hardest part, right? You're like, you want to see that scale number go down. You want to see it go down. But being able to be objective enough, and this is where I think having a coach comes into play too, like having an outside view really helps, because there's so much data collection that you can do in fitness journey. You can record the number of sets and reps and weight that you're hitting for your exercises at your gym. Yeah. Right? If you're just getting a little bit stronger every single week, that's a place where you can be proud of yourself.
Right.
Right? Before the 20 pounds of weight loss comes.
I like that a lot, because I was like kind of hitting on to like, how do you not get obsessive with it? Because it's so easy. Like once you start tracking your macros and stuff like that, like so easy to obsess over it. But I like that approach of like, no, actually, maybe just like write out what exercise you did that day and how many reps you did of it, how many sets you did of it. And then next week, look at it, see if you can add a few more reps.
But the obsession only comes in if you're expecting perfection from yourself.
Yes, 100%.
Right. And I think to a certain point, and there should be a little bit of an obsession with like, I want to hit my macros, I want to get my workouts in, I want to do those things. Not obsession to the point where it's like tearing you down if you don't do it.
Right.
But being obsessed enough that you are like really just trying to hit off all of the protocols, because in order to be balanced, like you have to experience both sides.
That's so true.
You have to experience not caring at all and caring so much that you can find a balance between those two. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's something that I might not have ever preached in the past. Yeah. Right? But I actually saw that take recently by a friend, and I was like, actually, he's right. The reason I'm so balanced today is because there was at one point where I would be like eating like 2 ounces of chicken and 100 grams of rice just to like close out my macros for the day. Right? And like I didn't see that necessarily as like obsessive behavior, but just like I want to be like, I want to do the best that I can. What I have, right? And if that means eating tiny amount of chicken and a bunch of carbs at the end of the day, then that's what it is. Right. But when it comes to, I think, like the average human, right, and it comes to not wanting to start a fitness journey and not wanting to be obsessed, that is where first we have to take like the perfectionist hat off, right? We can't expect that everything we're going to do is going to be 100% every single day, right? There will be days that you miss your morning walk. There will be days that you miss tracking a meal. There will be days that you miss a workout, and that's okay. Yeah. Right? But the data collection is there to show you what you're doing the majority of the time. Right. So, like, even with weigh-ins, like, with hopping on the scale, every single day, it's not going to say a low number. Right. Right? But if you can take that data and you can see that overall it's downward trending, that's a good place to be. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I have so many clients that, especially as females with our hormones and everything, like our weights do fluctuate a lot. Yeah. And I had a client this week that checked in. She hit all of her macros for the majority of the week. She got all of her workouts in. She was coming off of like not being very consistent at all either. Right? She went through a little season, just moving, bought a house, moving. Yep. Didn't track for a couple weeks. Didn't get her workouts in as much as she did. She got all of her workouts in. She hit her macros 5 days out of the week to a T. And then in the bottom of her check-in, she was like, I feel like I did a really good job this week, but the scale's not agreeing with that. So I guess I have to try harder. I was like, you weighed in one time, first of all. Yeah. You're done one data point versus 20 other data points. Yeah. And you're giving so much power to that one data point for what? For what? For what?
You just literally said before that, you just said you did everything to a T. You tracked your macros to a T. You ate everything you needed to eat. Yeah. That is what you should be falling back on. Absolutely. Those are the things you should be looking at, not the number on the scale, Absolutely. You know? So I think by like being a little bit obsessed, like we were saying in the beginning, is just about actually just believing in yourself. It's about just being so confident that you have the capability to do the things you need to do to get you to where you want to be. It's not about obsessing over the numbers. It's about obsessing over actually like pouring love into yourself. Obsessing over the things that you know you need to do because that's the only way that you're going to reach those goals. And maybe obsessing is not the greatest word for it, but it's kind of just like, you know, like honing in on it and just making sure you implement them. But then, like we said, where it becomes a problem is when you start to beat yourself up for not doing everything to a T, not being perfect. Because from the beginning, like, nothing's going to be perfect. You're not going to hit your macros every single day. You're not going to do everything that you're supposed to do every single day. But that's where it comes into play where, like, you have to rely less on what you're feeling and more on and more on what's important to you.
It's not so much being obsessed with closing everything out every day. But being obsessed enough that when you don't want to freaking do it, you do it anyways. Right? Being obsessed enough that when you don't want to have the protein shake before bed, you drink it anyways. Because you know you need an extra 30 grams of protein today. It's showing up to those training sessions when you really am like, I don't want to do this. Like, I remember the last time I was like super, super, super obsessed with just training. Right? It's been a little while since I've been in a space where I'm like very kind of obsessive over it, honestly. I was going through this strength phase, and I was chasing a 300-pound squat. And I got to it. And those training sessions were so long. They were so hard. I think I was squatting twice a week at one point. I was doing, like, 7 sets of 3, right? Like, doing, like, very, very treacherous workouts. And I remember I went to... I think it was like 5x4, so 5 sets of 4. So when you do 4 reps in a squat, like, you're going very fucking heavy because, like, that's the point. So I'm probably doing this with like 260 pounds. And it's hard to get through those workouts. And I remember I went to the doctor because I kind of had like some sinusy stuff going on. It was like allergies, and like the doctor was like, "It's just allergies. Like, you're fine. You can work out." And I remember texting my coaches and being like, "My head feels like it's gonna explode, but I have to go hit this split. Like, I have to do this if we're gonna like get to where we want to be with this, right?" So it's like, even if it wasn't the perfect conditions, even if it wasn't necessarily something I wanted to do that day, I went and did it anyway. And I think that's what I mean by obsession. It's not like you should be so obsessed that it's keeping you up at night type thing, but you should be obsessed enough to a point where it's like you're not giving yourself a choice on whether you get things done or not. Unless there's some health stuff that goes into it. Like, I do want to say, like, if you're injured, if you are like deathly ill, that is okay. But like, it's just allergies, you know, those snuffly nose, like, it's not reason enough to... Like, if you still went to work that day, if you still hung out with your friends that day, you can hit a workout. You can hit a workout. Like, 100%. I remember when I was, like, you know, working out more obsessively and more, like, in an unhealthy, obsessive way, I would work out and I would go lift really heavy on a leg day when I knew my back was really hurting that day. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't do hip thrusts right now. Like, maybe I can just, like, modify it and do something else. Like, that's where my brain is now. Like, I can do something that isn't so heavy on my back. But then I would go and do something that I knew was going to hurt my back. And then I can't even finish my workout because I just hurt my back. And then that's when you really feel like shit about yourself because you told yourself you were going to do it anyways. And then you literally couldn't, you know? So it's like, giving yourself that grace before even, like, going into it and knowing, like, okay, like, maybe I shouldn't do this right now because it's actually not going to affect me that negatively if I don't hit this workout right now when I'm deathly ill. I'll actually make more progress if I let myself recover first and then come back and show up better the next day, you know? Like, you're actually stunting your progress a little bit
when you're doing things when your body is telling you that it just needs rest. You know, like rest is important. I'm not like, we're not trying to come on here and be like, you have to do everything every single day. You should be taking no days off. Like, rest is just as important as anything else.
Well, that's part of the process.
Yeah,
100%. And that should be built into the plan.
100%.
This isn't like be so obsessed you do everything every single day and you never take it out.
Yeah.
It's have yourself a plan that works and
yeah.
be obsessed with getting that plan.
Yeah.
You take a rest day because your back is still sore, but you still go get that workout in during the week. You
right.
just change your rest day.
Right.
Right? I've had that happen hundreds of times.
Yeah.
It's like your period coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You might not want to do hip thrust that day. Go hit upper body instead.
You make it
or
work.
Take the day off and go the next day.
Yeah. You make it work 100%. Just like you would like change your schedule around one day if something came up or you have a doctor's appointment and now you can't do something that you wanted to do. Oh, well, now you got to change your schedule around a little bit. Like, that's just a part of life.
Yeah.
Like, taking, like, working out aside, like, that's just a part of life. You do that every day almost, you know? Like, your routine it's nice to fall back on your routine. It gives us consistency. It gives us structure. But that's not to say that our routine is going to be the same every single day. Things happen, you know? So something I want to, like, hit on a little bit with you is the all or nothing mindset. Because I think that has a lot to do with what we're talking about right now, honestly.
Yeah. The all or nothing mindset, that's the perfectionism mindset. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the, if I can't do everything, I'm going to do nothing.
Yeah.
Right? And that's not healthy obsession.
No.
That's the unhealthy side of obsession.
Yeah.
Right? When it comes to being in that all or nothing mindset, I think it's kind of like a loop that we get stuck in.
Yeah.
It's like, and most commonly I see in like the fitness realm, it's like the Monday through Thursday I'm really good. I'm eating like a granola bar for breakfast, a protein shake for lunch, and like eating nothing, eating like a bird.
Right.
And then Friday through Sunday you're like binging, going out, like eating anything and everything.
Yeah.
Because if you can't have it all, then you're gonna have nothing.
Right.
Right. And that's where I think it gets sticky with food tracking too, where it's like, oh, if I don't know how to track this one meal later that I'm going out, or like if I forgot to track breakfast, then I may as well not track for the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. And then that day turns into 2 days. Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't track yesterday, and I'm busy today, so like I'll just restart on Monday. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think breaking free of that is just breaking yourself free of the expectation that you have to be perfect with everything that you do. Right? Progress over time doesn't happen because you're perfect. It happens because you're consistent.
Right.
And being consistent with the right things. And that's why, especially in any fitness journey, depending on where you're starting, you have to find what you can be consistent with now.
Yeah.
Not what you want to be consistent with in 6 months from now.
Yeah.
But like, what can you realistically be consistent with now?
Yeah.
I had a girl that started a month ago, and like, there was a lot of resistance towards going to the gym. The first week, I was like, dude, why don't we just go for a walk every day?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
And that's what she did.
Right.
And she's like,
baby
she's
steps.
been for like a month already. She's almost lost 10 pounds.
Nice, yeah.
And it's just because she's moving her body more in ways that don't feel so, like, resistant to her.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And we'll get, like, she's been in the gym a handful of times, too. And we'll get there with that.
Right.
But it's like, I gave her something that's, like, actually doable for her to do that doesn't make her feel so overwhelmed with it.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
And I feel like another thing with the all or nothing mindset, we touched on how you said that's the perfectionist mindset, right? Mm-hmm. Like you want everything to be perfect, but you also want everything to happen as fast as it possibly can. Yeah. You want to reach your goals and see as much progress as fast as possible. Yeah. But you have to realize that if you have some kind of goal in mind that you really, really want to reach and you can't stray away from it, you can't think about anything else, it's keeping you up at night.
What does it matter if you did it in 6 weeks or 6 months?
Exactly. And the only way that it's actually going to stick long term is if you look at it as more of a long-term goal than a short-term goal. Yeah. You know, like, we're not supposed to be creating short-term goals for ourselves. Short-term goals are only for little things like, you know, doing well in a class, which is going to then help you achieve long-term goals of getting a degree. Right. You know, like, those short-term goals are okay if they help you get to a long-term goal. Okay. So when you break down these long-term goals, that's where the short-term goals come in. Mm-hmm. But when we're looking at it from such a timely manner and we're telling ourselves that we have to reach something so fast, that's when you reach burnout. Mm-hmm. And then when you reach burnout and it's something that obviously feels so uncomfortable because you've been working so hard and now all of a sudden you feel like you have no energy and no will to keep going, it's going to set you back a little bit.
That's when you fall into nothing.
Exactly. Again. So maybe now you're going to stop working out completely because you just showed yourself that it's not sustainable for you. Yeah. It makes you feel this way. It makes you feel super tired and burnt out by working out in the gym, but actually maybe you just need to scale it back a little bit.
Yeah. And that's the experience that a lot of people have with food tracking when they come into my program. I tried it for a couple of days, couldn't figure out how to do it, or I was too obsessive with it. Yeah. And, it's just not for me.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, but you said you want to lose weight long term. You said you want to, the reason you don't know how to lose weight or how to do this is because you don't know anything about food.
Yeah.
And, food tracking is the ultimate teacher when it comes to food. Putting your food in, weighing things out, learning portion sizes for the first time, learning what types of food your body needs, how much of it needs, learning the timing of when you need food, all of those things, that comes from food tracking, right?
It's a tool.
It's a tool. Yeah. And the problem with it is when you do it, a lot of the times when you do it on your own, and you are a little bit younger in your journey and you are more in that perfectionist all-nothing mindset, maybe you do it Monday through Friday and then you go out for food with your friends. Yeah. You don't know how to track what's at the restaurant and it's just it tears you apart.
Yeah.
Right? And then, so that's why everybody that comes into the program, some of them too, I'm like, can you just start taking pictures of your food?
Yeah.
Let's just start taking photos of your food and then I can give you some advice on things that we can switch out.
Yeah.
Or things that you can have more of.
I think that's great, right? Yeah.
And then that kind of shows them that okay, I can have all of these things. Maybe I just need to buy the lower fat cheese. Or maybe I just need to have more fruit in my diet. And then when they go into full-on tracking, it's more they've already set themselves up with this expectation that I can have anything I really want. Mm-hmm. I just have to learn how to portion things. I just have to learn how to choose meals, how to build meals, things like that.
Yeah. So, and I think it helps too when, especially in the beginning, if you're tracking your macros and stuff, then if you feel, super depleted, your energy's really depleted before a workout, now you can go back and look at what you ate before that workout and be like, oh, maybe it's because I just didn't have enough of carbs before this workout, and I know that carbs give me energy before my workouts.
It's all data.
It's all data. Everything, nutrition is so fascinating to me. Yeah. And it's our body just really needs a certain amount of things to get us to a level where we feel balanced in our own body. Absolutely. So it's hard when you're coming from a place of being super obsessive over things and then trying to track on top of that. It can get a little unhealthy. But like you said, with the help from someone else outside of you, especially a fitness coach, someone who is genuinely well-rounded in the subject, not just your friends that might just, tell you things that you want to hear, but isn't actually leading to your goals, then that's where it can really help you, So I would say reach out to a fitness coach, and Wanda's a great one to, reach out to for that type of goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think moving forward, I want to talk a little bit about building and breaking habits.
Okay.
Not that we haven't really touched on it yet, because I think we did slowly in this episode. But like I said in the beginning, there's a lot of things when you're trying to change habits, when you're trying to build habits, when you're trying to build goals for yourself. There's a lot of things that you not only need to learn, but you also need to unlearn. Mm-hmm. Those conditioned beliefs that we were talking about in the beginning. Those are not going to sustain you long term if you're falling back on something that already didn't serve you from the beginning. But it's hard to know if it serves you or not without actually diving deeper into that,
Absolutely. Yeah, I think building up habits and breaking habits, I don't know which one's harder.
Right?
Honestly. When it comes to breaking habits, it's I'd rather replace that old habit with a new habit.
I love that.
That way it's like you're not trying to completely stop yourself from doing something, but maybe you stop doing something in a certain way that's not helping you.
Yeah.
Building up habits, I think, goes hand in hand with building up that self-belief, right? And, like, something that I wanted to touch on before was self-belief, that they touch on a lot in the book that I referenced earlier, was the power of, like, visualization. I think we talked about this in the first episode a little bit. Like,
a little bit.
My field hockey coach used to do it with us.
Right.
But it came up again when I was talking about self-belief, and something that's really interesting about, like, the human nervous system is that if we sit down and, like, meditate or imagine something in very vivid detail, your brain recognizes that as an experience.
Yes.
So it's almost like you're
creating your reality.
Yeah. You're doing what you're imagining.
Yeah.
And you're almost, like, practicing before you even have to perform.
You're preparing yourself for that to come in, too. So I like that a lot. Like, using the visualization technique to help you actually reach your goals, because now you're just preparing your mind and your body for it to come in. Now you know how to receive it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And same with, like, building up habits. If your habit is to go to the gym 5 days a week that you want to start doing, right?
Yeah.
Sit down and, like, picture yourself doing that.
Yeah.
Picture who you're becoming.
Yeah.
Or who you become from having that habit.
Right.
Right? How does she walk? How does she talk? How does she feel? Go and feel those feelings so that when you're actually feeling them, it's like you can recognize it.
Right. And I talk a lot on this podcast, it's in my intro too, about your highest self. So one of the things that I like to do is visualize what my highest self looks like. What does the best version of myself look like? What does she eat? What does she do on the daily? What are her habits look like? You know, your habits really dictate how
you spend your time,
how you spend your time. If you're able to actually reach the goals that you've set out for yourself, what do your habits look like? That's probably one of the things, you know, you ask your clients. One of the first things you ask them, because that really dictates, you know, your time is precious. Yeah. Your time is really precious. And if you're spending most of your time implementing habits that don't actually serve you and aren't actually going to, you know, guide you towards your goals, then what's the point? Yeah. What's the point? So that's when we have to break those down more. And one thing I like to use is, for every habit that you try to implement, that you try to stick with, whether it be, you know, eating clean and balanced or working out in the gym, if that's something you want to implement into your life that you're not already doing, I like to use a little reward system where every single time that you know, go hit a hard workout, maybe you come home now and you make yourself a really balanced meal. Yeah. Every time you know, hop on a therapy session with your therapist, you go and buy yourself flowers after. Or, you know, before a workout, you buy yourself a coffee. Yeah. And, like, that's not to say that your reward system always has to be something that is tailored around buying yourself something. I don't think you necessarily have to spend any money at all. Maybe it's, you know, I had a really hard day at work today, but I worked really hard and I know I gave it my all. Now I'm going to go watch a show with my boyfriend after. I'm going to go, you know, hang out with a friend that I haven't seen in a long time. Your reward system can just be simple things like that, you know? It doesn't have to necessarily be something that is going to reach you towards your goal, but it can be something that regulates...
Gets you excited.
Yeah, gets you excited, regulates your emotions, brings you back to yourself a little bit, you know?
Absolutely.
Make it exciting. Make it something that you want to do. Don't make it a chore. Yeah. You know?
And I think going off of that too, when it comes to building habits, something that's always been really helpful is tying a habit with a habit you already have.
Love that. Habit stacking.
Yeah, habit stacking. So that way, like, if you're trying to take, let's just say you're a gym girl, you want to start taking creatine. You never remember to take freaking creatine. Yeah. What I used to do is, like, I have it on my bedside table, and when I would take, like, my, like, nighttime vitamin, I take, like, B complex before I go to bed. Yeah. I would, like, take those two together. Yeah. Or maybe you have it with your morning coffee. Right. Right, because you're making coffee every morning. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you take it when you brush your teeth. Like, maybe that's the reminder. Like, something that's already very well established that you want to, you just add on to. Right.
Right. Even with, like, you know, some people say, oh, I don't have time to listen to podcasts or anything like that. maybe you listen to a podcast while you get ready for your day.
Yeah.
Now, guess what?
That's
You're getting your mind ready for the day. You're starting to think more about your thoughts. You're starting to think more about everything that's coming through. You're starting to question your beliefs more when you start listening to podcasts because you're hearing other people's beliefs. And now you're like, wait, maybe I believe that too, but that's not what I've been telling myself this whole time. Right. So maybe now I have to question my own beliefs. Absolutely. You know, that's something that helped me out so much was podcasts. Like, that's how I started my own, because I just started listening to so many podcasts and it made me question my beliefs. It really did. So I would say, honestly, the concept that we're talking about today is like vital for your healing journey.
Absolutely. Yeah, I started with podcasts in the morning too, and I would listen to the Mindset Mentor, Rob Dial.
Yes, I love him.
Because his are easy. Like, not that your podcast's not easy,
but they're very fast.
Short. They're short. So like that's what I would start. It's like when I wanted to kind of like get out of a little funk that I was in and start having better days. Yeah, that's what I would do. I would just like start my morning with something like that.
Right. I love that.
You can do the same thing with like if you want to read more. Yeah. Listen to it while you're driving. Yeah. Right. You know, that kind of thing. So
100%. I love that. Habit stacking is huge. I want to do like a whole episode on that because it's huge.
Breaking habits, I think, is a little bit harder. I'm curious what your advice looks like when it comes to breaking a bad habit.
I think first you have to actually assess your habits. Yeah. And you have to figure out, you know, what habits am I just doing because I've been doing them for so long? Yeah. And like, what habits are actually helping me, helping my mind, helping my body, helping my soul, helping me throughout my day, you know? Because like I said, not all of your habits are going to be something that are going to reach you towards your fitness goals, but maybe they help out your mind, which in turn helps your fitness goals as well. You know, you have to look at your mind and your body as two separate things sometimes. So in terms of breaking habits, I think, like I said, assess which ones are serving you and which ones aren't. And then, you know, break it down a little bit. If it's something that you're falling back on because it's really familiar and it's really comfortable, it's hard to say, you know, just replace it with something that's so uncomfortable to you because it's going to be hard for that to stick. But I think slowly implementing something else. So if you're trying to break a habit of, you know, scrolling through social media a lot, maybe that means you have to start out by just putting some, you know, going into your settings app and putting a time limit on your apps. If that doesn't work, then maybe you have to, you know, take harder measures and you have to delete some things off of your phone. Like for a while, I had to delete social media off of my phone completely and go cold turkey. That's also hard to you know, stick to for some people, but sometimes you have to take those measures because none of the little things are working. Yeah. So like it's very subjective to not only the person, but also the habit that you're trying to break. Right. But I think the key is baby steps. The key is not that all or nothing mindset. It's taking it slowly, seeing what you can just add. So maybe instead of, you know, scrolling through social media, you have to turn your phone off completely. And now what do you do with yourself? You don't know what to do with yourself because you spent all this time scrolling on your phone every single day that you didn't even build another habit. So like you said, replacing it with something better. Now, like one of your goals is to read. Now you have no option but to pick up that book because you can't use your phone right now. Yeah. You know? So it's hard to just like give one answer for that, but it's definitely, you have to first assess those habits in the first place. Yeah,
I think a big part of it is just recognizing that breaking a habit is changing. And what really scares people with change is like, we get into this place where it's like, would we rather stay the same and have these familiar threats, per se. Like these familiar things that make us uncomfortable. Yeah. Or would we rather change and now have to deal with the unfamiliar threats that come along with changing? Right. And that's what I think keeps a lot of people stuck. Yeah. Keeps a lot of people in a habit. Yeah. Right? Is that it's like, I'd rather stay here and be in this habit because I'm at least familiar with honestly like what this makes me feel, even if it makes me feel bad.
Even if it makes you feel bad.
Rather than change and have new problems to deal with, new unfamiliar problems to deal with.
Exactly. I think that's huge. I always say that the only way to grow, the only thing that leads to growth is stepping outside of your comfort zone. Yeah. You have to do things you're not familiar with. You have to do things that are uncomfortable if you want to change. Change is not something that is going to feel good at first. It's not. But eventually it will. When you stick with it and when you really gain that confidence by teaching yourself that you can do hard things or things that you just deemed as hard, and now they'll become easier. They'll become easier. Like, taking the Olympics, for example, the Olympics were just going on. Oh, yeah. An Olympic athlete didn't just start off being good at their sport. No. They weren't. Maybe they had athletic genes in them. Yeah. That didn't mean that they were already the best diver in the world, the best runner in the world. They had to start from somewhere, too. Yeah. Like, everyone starts from somewhere.
Yeah. And it's funny, my mentor actually, like, sent out a little, like, kind of like motivational video to us earlier this week on Monday. And he was talking about how if you want to be the best in your business, if you want to be the best in whatever it is that you're doing, like, it's gonna get boring. And I think that's where people get stuck too, especially in fitness.
Yeah.
Right? It's gonna get boring.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to do very mundane things over and over and over and over again until you get the result that you want.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, like, basketball players, right? Like, if they did, like, 1,000 free throws a day for however long their career is, right? Do you think they were really having fun?
Yeah.
Doing, like, 72 million freaking same shots into the basketball hoop?
Right.
Like, no, probably not.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they love it.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody wants to do the same thing 1,000 times a day. It's gonna get boring. It's gonna get mundane. And that's when you really have to, like, buckle down and realize, like, this is what it takes.
This is what it takes. Like we said, falling back on that self-image that you're trying to create for yourself.
Right.
Tell yourself that you need to do those 1,000 free throws because it's going to build confidence within you.
Yeah.
Because you know that's going to help you out. Inevitably, it is going to reach some sort of progress. Like, that is the progress right there. You doing those free throws and stuff, like, obviously not everyone listening to this is going to be a basketball player. It's just an example. But,
I mean, just like reps in the gym.
Yeah.
Right? Same with, you know, doing the boring tasks at work.
Right.
Right?
The only time that guilt comes in is when you know you're doing things that aren't helping you, that are not serving you towards your goals. That's the only time you ever feel guilty. You're not going to feel guilty after hitting a workout. You're going to feel great. You're going to feel like you just did something that is helping you out. And that's why you can't focus too much on, you know, how much is changing, how much, you know, progress you're making when you can't already see it. You just have to be confident that by working on yourself, by doing something other than, you know, sitting on your couch and feeling pity for yourself, that anything besides that is going to reach you towards your goals, you know, if you set it up for yourself. Yeah. So something I want to, like, hit on a little bit before we close out the episode is surrendering. So Wanda has a tattoo on her, actually, that says surrender.
On my hand.
On her hand. And I guess my first question then is just, what does the word surrender mean to you?
Yeah, so surrender is, for me, it's really just, like, letting go of control. I grew up in, like, an environment where, like, I didn't really ever have control. There was, like, just a lot of chaos and a lot of reading the room in order to stay safe and, like, just a very unpredictable environment that I grew up in. So I, my whole life, have clinged onto control so hard because I felt like I could never have it. So, like, whenever, like, especially when I got out of that house, right, and I went to college and I wasn't living with my family anymore, it became this thing where, like, I was seeing this need for control come up in so many other areas especially in my relationship too. Like, there would be things, like, I love to cook.
Yeah.
I'm a big cook.
Yeah.
Love to make dinner for us every night.
Yeah.
But, like, it was getting to a point where, like, I wouldn't even let my boyfriend make dinner because, like, he wouldn't do it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, it wouldn't come out the way that it would if I made it.
Right.
And it was, like, for a while, I was like, why am I like this? And
Yeah.
I realized it's just this need for control over things because everything always felt so out of control. And so surrender to me really feels like just being able to, like, let go and, like, yes, control as much as you can, but, like, stop being in this place where you're trying to control every single outcome to every situation.
Right.
Right?
Like, controlling the controllables.
Right. Like, you can control what time you wake up in the morning.
Right.
You can control what you spend your day doing.
Yeah.
Like, for the most part, right?
Yeah.
But, like, you can't control how other people are going to act. You can control your reaction to it.
I was just going to say
I think
that,
that's a big one. Is like, surrendering is knowing that, like, you don't have to control everything, but you are in control of your emotions and you are in control of your actions. But for the rest of it, like, you can't control other people. You can't control certain situations. Just, like, be good with that and, like, let go. Yeah, 100%. Let go.
And maybe it's worth just, like, taking out a piece of paper and writing down what is in your control. Like, what is truly in your control, and what are the things that you're trying to control. Yeah. And then kind of comparing them, because the things that are in your control are, you know, what you do. What you do. You are fully in control of what you put your body through every single day, you know? And then the things that we try to control are, like, other people, other people's reactions to things, other people, like, and that's why, like, going back to what we said in the beginning, if you're just relying on someone else for your fitness journey to, you know, get you to the gym every single day, you can't control what time they get to the gym. So what, now that's going to make you 30 minutes behind in your workout, and now you got to cut your workout short because of someone else. But you can control what time you show up in the gym. Yeah. So, like, take what's in your control and use that and make that a part of how it gets you to where you want to be. You know, like, controlling the controllables. I think that's huge. And just surrendering and, like, actually trusting that everything that you are doing to help you get to your goal is working, even when you can't see the progress yet. Yeah. Even when that number on the scale didn't drop, or you still see yourself in the mirror and you look at yourself the same or whatever. Yeah. Like, maybe if you see yourself in the mirror and you look the same, even though you've been consistently working out for so long, maybe that's something that is more guided towards your mindset. Maybe that's something you need to look inner towards. Or maybe it has to do with, you know, what you're actually doing in the gym, what you're actually eating, and not just telling yourself you're eating, because maybe you're eating really balanced, but you're just ignoring the fact that a lot of the times you're just not eating the things that you should be eating, you know?
And I think when it comes to, like, letting go of the control, on the other side of that is just, like, having faith or having trust that, like, everything that's kind of happening is for you. I think that was the biggest part for me. I grew up raised Catholic, but when things were going on in my life that I felt like were so out of my control and so unfair, I kind of started to, like, pull away from God and the church and all of that. And I will say I'm not super religious now. I definitely do believe there's, like, a higher power, there's a source, there's a God. Right. And I have a relationship with that person or that being. Yeah. But that was, I think, the second biggest piece for me was, like, okay, now I know that I have to let go of trying to control everything. But how can I trust that, like, there's something else looking out for me? How can I trust that everything that is happening for a reason, is happening for me? And that's when I really had to come back in and create a relationship with whoever you want to call him, God, divine source, whatever it is, right? Especially this really came up for me when I lost one of my really good friends last year. That was like my big wake up call. That was like, okay, there is something out there that is controlling this, or not controlling this, but, like, everything's happening for a reason. Right? Like, there's always something to learn from it. There's just something else out there. There's a higher power.
there's a higher power.
Right? Because how, if there isn't, then like how could this happen?
Exactly.
You know, and that was, I think, the major switch that I made from when I was young to like now. Like when I was young, I was like really mad at God for what ended up happening with my dad and him becoming disabled and, you know, sickness and stuff in my family. Yeah. And now it's like I saw loss for the first time and I was like, oh, now I need something more than ever. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Because there has to be something out there. Right. There has to be a higher power that's like guiding this for everybody. Otherwise, this wouldn't have happened. Yeah. So
I went through the same exact thing, like when my grandpa passed away. Your relationship with whatever higher power you believe in, I think, is the most important. You don't have to, you know, have something to show for it. You don't have to go to church every single week.
I think that surrendering is going to be really hard if you don't have that.
I think so too. Because then what do you have to fall back on?
Surrendering.
Exactly. I think, and what you said.
For me, it was like the universe first.
When 100%.
It was the universe. It was like, okay, I can't control this. Like, the universe is going to work out in my favor. Yeah. Right?
It's whatever. Like, we all, I'd say, like, most of us who say that there's a higher power out there, we're all agreeing that something bigger than us exists. We just can't agree on the name. Yeah. Which is so dumb. It's like, why are we fighting over what the name is? Take whatever resonates with you. Like, it's so subjective to who you are and what you believe. It doesn't matter what you call it, you know? And so, like, what you said about, you know, everything's happening for you. The mindset shift behind that helped me so much is that instead of saying, everything's happening to me, it's happening for me. Because you will start to realize how much you are in this pity me mindset where you think everything is out to get you. But actually, bad things happen to you because they need to teach you lessons. And sometimes whatever higher power you believe in needs to shake you so hard and, you know, break you down so much to the point where you open your eyes because you have been so blind to it for so long. And it's just trying to teach you a lesson. And that's all out of love. And something that goes along with that is that you have to adapt this mindset that you don't have to do things. You get to do things, you know? You get to go hit that workout in the gym. There's people in this world that don't even have legs, and you're able to go push your legs to a point where you walk out of the gym shaking every single day because you pushed yourself so hard. Like, you get to do those things. You get to do them. And they're not something that you have to do, because when we get into that mindset, it's like, it becomes a chore. Yeah. You're telling yourself you have to do these things, but in reality, like, we're just so blessed to be able to do them in the first place. And we take them as a chore because we take this life for granted. Yeah. We really do, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But anyways, I don't know if you have anything else to add. I think that's...
Yeah, no, I think that's a good place to stop.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming on again.
I love having these conversations.
Yeah. I'm so grateful for you, and I'm so grateful that you were able to come on today.
You know, I'm sad you're going back to school.
I know. For everyone who's listening, I literally go back to school tomorrow.
Yeah.
But we were able to get this in today.
Last one in.
Yeah, but thank you so much. And everyone who's listening, reach out to Wanda if you want to. Her Instagram will be linked in the description below. Even if you're unsure about coaching right now and that's not, the path you want to take, like, she's so much more than a fitness coach. I'll always say that. She really is. She's just such a bright light that can help you out so much. And I know she helped me out so much before I even knew her. I reached out to her. Yeah. And I remember just, like, hopping on a call with her and being like, I don't know what's going on. She's like, you need to go deeper. So she helped me out a lot. And it's just so full circle to, like, have you on the podcast a second time now talking about
and
this
I would love to connect with anybody that's listening to, just in, like, a purely connection-based way, right? It doesn't have to be the pressure of, like, coaching or fitness, but if there's any questions or, comments or any conversation that you guys want to have around what Lizzie and I talked about today, I'm more than happy to discuss that. And check out my page, too, because we'll have a lot more. We're actually doing an Instagram Live, like, at 12 on self-sabotage. So
nice.
That will be on my page, too.
Yeah.
We didn't get to dive into that, so.
Yeah, love that. And I have an episode I put out on self-sabotage, so check that out, too. Yeah. But anyways, thank you guys for listening. I'll see you next Monday.